welcome everybody. We will run this webinar in the same format that we run the majority of our webinars in. This is for people who are interested in finding out more about our Docman filing tool, our MyBotGP Docman Filing. What we're going to do is we're going to run through our presentation, which you should have had a copy of. We will stop for some questions. We will show a short demonstration of the tooling working, and then we will open for questions as well. We like to keep our webinars open. We like questions. What we've seen is that if we do too much talking and we don't give you the opportunity to ask questions, you don't find out specific pieces of information that you need. So please pop any questions into the chat. Both Sanjeev and I will take this webinar today. When it comes to question time, we'll take it in turns to answer them, and you'll probably be stuck with me for the rest of the webinar, going through all of the processes and everything. So I'm going to share my screen quickly. We've had over 200 people register for this today, so if you can just ignore the pinging that's going on in the background, that would be great. Right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so Sandra will keep an eye out for questions, and we'll get back to those. What we'll do is we'll buzz through as much as we can now, and then we'll stop, go through some questions, and then we'll come back in and carry on again. Okay, so MyBotGP, what is it? Essentially, MyBotGP is a automation tool. It's at CHIFJAF, we have an array of automation tools that are built specifically for primary care. For EMIS clients, we have normal pathology filing, which is currently being used by some practices to look after and filter against up to 200 different pathology tests. We have Docman, and we have repeat prescriptions as well. And for System 1 clients, we have normal pathology filing, and we will shortly have an additional 2 products as well for them, which will replicate the same footprint that we have in EMIS. I think you can see someone stuck in the lobby there. I'm not quite sure why that's glitching on my screen. Can you? Yeah, I think there's a glitch with Teams here, so if you could just ignore this. Rachel Bauer trying to get in, unless she's now in. Okay. Oh, no, back again. It's going to be annoying. Okay, we'll ignore that. Sanj, can I leave that to you? Maybe if you block it. Okay, so to start with, I can share something that's very important for anyone thinking about using our product range. We are an NHS ICT strategic partner, which is quite unusual for a private company. What that means is that we're a partner of HBL ICT. They are an ICT. Obviously, you will all be aware of what ICTs are. They support GP practices in terms of all technology, and we are an official partner. So what that and this logo and this confirms that. So what that means for you is that if you do use any of our tooling, it means it lives in an NHS environment. So it actually lives in an ICB's hosting center. Why is that important? Well, it's important because when you're obviously going through clearances like DPIAs, DTACs, data sharing agreements, DPAs, it's a much more slick process. All of our kit is built for the NHS, for primary care specifically, and lives in an NHS environment. We were also part of a Health Innovation Network Launchpad program, which is what this bottom bit here, which was essentially a program funded by the NHS and government several years back for innovation in tech, and we completed that program. Okay, so we get on to the interesting part, the bit that you want to hopefully find out about. The MyBotGP range. So we have a very strong track record of working in primary care. MyBotGP are are products that can be configured and used at practice level. We'll cover what that means in a bit more detail a bit later on in the presentation. But invariably, you are all using Docman, hopefully, on this call. If you're not, then this won't be the right webinar for you. But you will all have your own flows as to how you configure Docman, what templates you want it to use, don't use, what folders, where you want to send documentation. So what that means is that in order to have a tool that can support you, it needs to be able to be bespoke to practice level. And our tooling does that. Now, what we're seeing more now is sort of several years back, we were mainly selling to practices. Now what we're having a lot more is PCN acquisitions. So what that means is you can buy this as a practice or you can buy it as a PCN. However, if you don't have a centralized flow for Docman, which most don't, you will all be able to bespoke it as you wish. Quick installs, and then it's around training MyBotGP what to do with each letter once, and the second time it sees that letter, it will do that. It will triage it for you. So it's also important to say what we don't do. Our tooling, we are not, the MyBotGP range for Docman is not making clinical decisions on letters. So what does that mean? We are not attempting to read paragraphs of free text, work out calculations, and then agree next steps through our tooling. That's not what this is for. In fact, having sat on multiple other webinars and reviewed multiple other toolings, there isn't anything out there that can do that without human intervention. So we believe the most robust, cost-effective, time-consuming, time-saving approach is to pick up all of the letters, validate all of the letters, get them all onto the system for you, and triage them to the appropriate place. And again, we'll come back to what that means in a bit more detail in a moment. All of our processes, our MyBotGP range, have a DCB 0129 certification, which is a clinical risk certification, which is a prerequisite. Sorry, I can see people still joining the webinar. It's pinging away in the background. I just have to ignore that. Apologies. I think we're up to 103 people. We have DCB 0129, which is an NHS prerequisite. I'm also pleased to share that we have just built out our own DCB 160, which we can share as a template for practices to follow. A DCB 160 is essentially how you make best use of automation tooling at the practice, and in fact you should have a DCB 160 for everything that you use. Again, different conversation, be it our tooling or anything else. So what's the reason for you joining this call? Well, it's simple. There's masses and masses of letters that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So on average, and this is an NHS stat, and again, some of you will be receiving more, some of you will be receiving less based on patient demographics and so on and so forth. But an average list, on average, a practice with an 8,500 list is receiving about 125 letters a day. So that's a staggering 39,000 letters a year. All of those letters need to be picked up. They need to be validated in terms of is it a correct letter, and does it link to the patient? They need to be the Docman template needs to be completed. If you're using Docman, the letter needs to be coded in terms of what letter it is, and they need to be filed. And that has to be done for every single letter. For those of you who are using other applications like IntelliSense, what we've been told, again, what we've been told, and you can validate this on your own, is that has some challenges around accuracy and doesn't file. So despite it pre-populating the templates, what we've been told is that you still have to visually compare the letter and the template, and to validate that yourself and then triage to the appropriate place. So it's still quite time consuming. Obviously, there are issues with errors and mistakes from people doing things manually, which is just how it is when people do things manually. And we're told, again, this is coming from our clients, that they run at approximately a 10 to 15% error rate on letters, which can be significant when you're looking at volume. So MyBotGP won't make mistakes. Once you've told it what to do with a letter, it will recognize that letter and it will get it onto the system in the correct place, and triage it to the appropriate place, to the appropriate folder, person, team, file, whichever that you want it to. So it will ensure letters are dealt with quickly. You'll get thousands of hours of physical time and cost back, increased resilience, supporting staff shortages, holidays, sick leave, people leaving, and free time at the practice, which is obviously something that you're all in need of. Everyone is unbelievably busy at the moment, and minimize mistakes. So think of MyBotGP as the first layer. It will grab all of your letters, all of your emails, as our tooling will also read emails, get them onto the system, validate them, recognize the letter, validate the letter, complete the template, file it, and triage it to the appropriate place. And our tooling works 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can come in on a Monday morning and everything is zeroed. In addition to that, if you have backlogs of letters, which some people do, MyBotGP can be left on to clear through those backlogs once it's been taught what to do with each letter, quite quickly. So, as I said, works with or without IntelliSense, works 24/7, 365. It connects to Docman, and it will collect all letters and mail, recognizes them, validates the letters and emails, files and triages as per practice protocols, and with a detailed audit. Goodness me, people are still joining. All I can see is pinging in the background. Okay, go to the next slide. So, and we'll stop once we get past, I think, 2 more pages, and we can stop for questions, and then we can go back to the demonstrations. So that's the guilty culprit, the template. So every single letter that comes in, or email that comes in with a letter, and letters that are handed in physically can be scanned and emailed in, needs to be put into this template, essentially. So someone has to physically read it or validate a third-party tool reading it to make sure that that template is correct and a replica and a correct representation of what that letter is. So, stuff like event dates, descriptions, organizations, departments, what folder you want it sent to, notes, tags, reviews, coding, documents, visible to patient, not visible to patient, and so on and so forth, all needs to be manually populated into this folder or validated. So the way that MyBotGP works is the first time it sees a letter, it will present to you that letter and say, I think this letter is this. And then you go through and you either agree or disagree, and then show it why it's not. Give it an appropriate way to recognize that letter, so the second time it sees it, and it will just pass through. So it will pick up and validate and complete the template. It will validate the NHS number, document type, categorize the letter by applying all of the relevant information for each document, i.e. event date, department, organization, hospital, clinical code to categorize the letter, obviously not diagnose, create review. So when it's recognizing letters, you'll give each letter a name, and you'll say, for this letter from this department, from this hospital, this is how we validate it manually. For this particular letter, it might have a date in the middle of the screen, in the middle of the page, or on the top left-hand corner of the page, or the right-hand corner of the page, and you can tell MyBotGP to, okay, for this letter, talking about this condition, validated in this way with the NHS number over here, I don't want you to look at the date on the top left-hand corner. I need you to use a different date. You should only look for a date in the middle of the page. So second time it sees that letter, it will recognize it, and it will say, oh, I know what to do with this one. No interest in the top left-hand corner. I need to use the one in the middle. You can teach it to file letters. It obviously will add the patient, the document to the patient record as well, and then assignment, what you want to do with the letter afterwards. So the way that it works is it will pick up everything, it will validate everything, and then it will triage it to the appropriate place. So what does that mean? Well, some of our clients have letters like DNAs and 111 letters that they have decided that they don't need to see. So they can bypass the coding team and just be put straight filed. However, for 111 letters, for example, it can also look for keywords. well, you could look for keywords on all letters, but for 111 letters, you could set a rule and say, for all of these, I'm happy for you to file them. We don't need to see them unless you see the keyword suicide or another keyword that would mean that is a letter that you need to see. And then MyBotGP, every time from that point forwards, every time it sees a 111 letter, it will say, oh, what are my rules for this? Okay, I've read it. Doesn't say any of these keywords. I can just file that one. No one needs to see it. So you're reducing the footprint, excuse me, reducing the footprint of the work that it takes to not only get that letter on the system, but also validate it and put it in the right place. In addition, excuse me, in addition, you can say all pharmacy letters, we don't need to see those. We need you to validate them, get them on the system and file them, but you need to triage those off to a different folder or person. And then other letters you can send to specific teams to code or to people. So I'm just going to put you on mute for a second. Okay, if we move to the next page. Oh, I'm being thrown water. Oh, I've got here, thank you. So this is what this slide represents. So it's all very well saying, yep, we've got the letters validated and onto the system, but what are you going to do with them? Well, what you can do with them is essentially whatever you want. You can use different folders, templates, all of the functionality that's there in Docman remains the same. So if you have particular templates that you want to continue to use, you can. If you want to send stuff to pharmacy teams or coders, you can. Specific people, folders. We have some clients that set up safeguarding folders. You can create reviews, assign tasks, track progress, set reminders and notify users. So think of the tooling as something that makes best use of Docman for you, but removes the time that you have to take configuring Docman and the associated tasks around that, and it does it for you. So, you know, if you have teams that are capable of coding, medical coding, some of our clients have Docman lift and shift. They grab everything, validate it, get it on the system, and just push it all the way through to the coding team. Other than, you know, stuff that needs to go to pharmacy teams or they've decided doesn't need to be looked at. So what they're doing is just focusing on that piece. Others use a combination. It's completely up to you, and it's quite quick to set up. Now, needless to say, something like this must have a super complex audit log, and that's what this slide represents. What you're looking at here is a breakdown of the audit log. So all of the document filings by date, by document, and then a granular breakdown view of all of the filings. So every letter that it's seen and it actions, there will be a footprint of, so you can go back and validate it. In addition to that, the way that it works is every time it's seen a letter for the first time, it will ask you permission to include it. So what you're seeing here is a combination of three things. You have the letters that have been filed, the letter types, and then you have some letters here and it's saying, I've never seen these before. What do you want to do? And if you want to add them on, you open them up, validate them into the template, teach it how to recognize each one of those letters. And from that point onwards, it will continue it won't ask you for a second time. Now, once you're familiar with the product, once you've coded in 5 or 10 letters, you know, like any software, it takes a few goes to get your eye in. It's about 1 to 2 minutes per letter. So it's not a huge amount of time. And then when you take into consideration that, yes, you do have to teach it to recognize each letter, you only have to do it once for each letter. And if you don't and continue doing it manually, even if you are using another tool that supports that, every single time from that point onwards, you will continue to do it manually. So here there's a time investment of show it how to do it once, and then it goes down. And what you'll see, and we've seen with our clients, is over a period of weeks, the Docman detail filing overview underneath folder, where it's got lots of different letters, gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Anything it doesn't recognize can be put to an exception folder, or can be put, or will pop up in this folder as well and say, don't know what to do with this, it's changed. Okay, so if we just quickly jump to the next price, yeah, we can run through pricing here as well. So our model is very different to other models. It's very cost effective compared to some of the products that are out there. We have a very standard subscription model, so unlimited pages and unlimited letter types. So that means you can have as many different letter types as you like included in the subscription. We were recently on another webinar with other suppliers where the scenario was to give how much would it cost to code 100 complex letters, you know, and there were all different manners of pricing models that were shared. Ours was about a fifth of the price. You know, it wasn't even a question for us. You could have, we've got one client has 800 letter types. It's completely irrelevant. As many different letter types and as many letters included in an annual subscription. And it's quite a simple calculation. So as I touched on before, your MyBotGP will live in an NHS environment. So there is a hosting and managed service cost, which basically means it will live on a computer, a secure computer in the cloud. You do not need to have any computers at the practice or anything. That will plug into to Docman securely, and you'll the best way to describe it is you'll have a remote worker working from a computer in the sky in a hosting center, and it will be grabbing all of your letters for you and filing them, getting them onto the system. Our charging is 749 for a practice plus list times 30 pence on an annual subscription, and the hosted cost, give or take how many patients you've got, anywhere from 400 to 800 a month, give or take, and at 4 to 800 a year, rather, 40 to 80 pounds a month, 40 to 60 pounds a month, not considerably less. So 40 to 60 pounds a month, just to make that clear, unless you're a particularly large practice, and then it will go up, you know, by a percentage. But what this slide is saying, up to 10,000 patients is charged at 7 pence. If you've got 12,000 patients, then the increment after 10,000 for those additional 2,000 is 6 pence. And then if you've got more than 15,000, anything above that is charged at 5 pence. And we have a different PCN pricing where the hosting cost, where it's about, I'd say, about 8% cheaper, roughly, if you buy it as a PCN with multiple products. And again, that wouldn't make a difference in terms of what you do with the tooling afterwards, because obviously all of you will have your own flows. Now, if you are part of a group of practices that have a centralized Docman team or Docman flow, where you're all using the same rules, and there is one Docman for more than one practice, then you would only need one MyBotGP. It could manage all of them for you. So we can explore that further later. Okay, that's enough for me talking for the moment. I can hear Sanj typing away in the background. So if I stop sharing my screen now, and then do we have questions, Sanj? Okay, so should I share my screen and share the questions as well? Yeah, okay. Hey, can you see that? Yeah, okay. So is it possible to send a link to the webinar? Yes, Sanj has done that.
Yeah, I've done that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What we also do after each webinar is we will put it onto our website. That normally takes a day or two. We've got quite a comprehensive webinar page on our site, and we will also send you all an email with a copy of the recording as well. So that just to confirm that. Does it have image reading capacity? Some letters only scans which appear image rather than bytes. I'm not sure.
I can take this one.
Yeah. Okay.
So again, I think the way the tooling works is about getting it onto the system. So, and the way it does that is through keywords and the classification. So as long as we can, so for those imaged type letters, we're able to classify that and cherry pick a keyword on that letter, like scan or some kind of title against that letter. It will then take that letter and effectively file it against that patient once it's found the NHS number and event date. So as long as you can set a keyword on that letter, then yes, you can pick it up and file it.
Okay, thank you, Sanj. Also, if the letters, just to add to that, if there are letters that it's not able to look after, then you can teach it to recognize that letter and then send it to an appropriate person or team. So there are sort of fail safes around that, saying, okay, I don't want you to, or if there are letters that you don't want it to action, or you want to highlight as different actions, to be picked up, more quickly, or for whatever reason you decide at practice level, you can teach it to recognize the letter type straight away and just say, right, send that straight to that person. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. Does this work with EMIS PCS as a
There's a question for, I think.
where does it pick up action bits, i.e. hospital team specified action for GP? Sanj, you want to answer that?
No, so it doesn't pick up. Again, it's the way the tooling works. It's about getting it on the system. It's the administrative piece in terms of classifying the document type, identifying that through a keyword, getting it against the patient letter. Putting it against the actual patient, and then applying it to the relevant folders, create reviews, tasks, and so forth. But in terms of the action bits, no, it doesn't. That's not what it's there for. It will put it into a folder for a team to action that.
Thank you, Sanj. Arif, do you mind popping your question into the chat? Is that possible? I've just seen there's just a hand popped up. Essentially thank you. Just recovering what Sanj is saying. When we built this tool, we didn't believe that would be an effective time saving for you. We are aware, obviously, there's other tooling which will present things to you, but you still have to manually log in and validate whether you agree or disagree. So, and there is a considerable price tag for those toolings as well. So in our view, having something which is not able to actually make the decision and file on your behalf without you looking at for a cost doesn't really look like good value. So what our tool is done, the strength of our tool is the accuracy and the ability to pick up the letters, validate the letters, and triage them appropriately to the correct people in real time, saving the time of the validation, the pickup, distribution of them, so that then the appropriate people who would be able to make that decision as to what to do with it next. I believe the answer to this is yes. The next one, in your example, 8,500 list, how much admin time do you expect to require to set up criteria for validating, coding, triaging stages? So depending on how many letters you have, what we've seen is okay, that's actually a good question. So after you've got through the initial training piece, and I'll answer that in two ways, it's a couple of minutes a letter. But like anything, even when you get a new phone, it takes a bit of time to get your head around it. But I'd say after a couple of hours of playing with the tool, people generally have built a level of confidence in the tooling, where they've coded in 5 to 10 letters, 12 letters, and then from that point onwards, it's a couple of minutes a letter. So if you look at how many letters you've got, I'd average that out about 2 minutes, and that should be fine, 2 to 3 minutes. Now, what we do as well, what we're really proud of is for all of our clients, we have a weekly training webinar. We have that for pathology filing. We have that for Docman. We have it for EPS repeat prescriptions. They are run every week. Whether we have one client attend or 50 clients attend, there is always a weekly webinar. They are open. We don't charge for those, and they're about an hour and a quarter. And what we see is that people that generally join the first 2 or 3, they get up and running with the tooling really quickly. And then if they do have specific problems or challenges, obviously we can be contacted. But then invariably, what most do now is they jump into one of the webinars and just say, "I've got a quick question. How would you handle this scenario?" Or "What would you do?" Or "Can you run me through this?" And someone from our team will run through that with you. And they've proved really beneficial. It's a good way to train lots of people at the same time. In addition to that, we have a YouTube channel, a private YouTube channel where we have multiple videos on how to use the tooling, and we've broken those down, a couple of long videos, sort of 15-20 minutes, a couple of webinars, and then lots of 2 to 3 minute videos, as they seem to be the most popular. People want to consume information quickly, so they'll have a specific question, i.e. how would you push this to a template, or how would you validate this letter, and you'll have access to those as well. Do the prices include VAT? No, those prices are excluding of VAT. 37,000 list across 2 partnerships. How much? We'll come back to you on that one. I think Farrell is on this call. If you take note of that, we can come back afterwards. But pretty much we would take 37,000 list if you average that at about 6 pence, and then it would be 749 plus 499, and then anyway, we'll come back to you on that. Can it differentiate letter dates by type? Yes. Yeah, Sanj. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, very much so. So the event date, you train MyBotGP which one to pick from those 3. You can also have the ability to set a secondary date option, so a contingency just in case that the first date wasn't found or wasn't placed in that same position. So very much so, we've got lots of options in setting your event date.
Thank you, Sanj. Is this just for EMIS, or did you say it's for System 1? System 1 is coming soon. It's in test mode at the moment, and as soon as that's live, we'll go to market with that. Probably another about 3 months, I would say, until it's live in System 1. And it will be the equivalent. Obviously, it's not Docman. Docman isn't for System 1, but there'll be the equivalent attaching docs. I think we're calling it attaching letters and workflow. So please bear with us for that. How does the bot know who to send the letter to, e.g. specific GPs? Sanj, do you want to grab that one? I don't believe it does. We put separate folders.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, it's based on looking at your document sets, document types, and which folders, descriptions, and which tasks you want to create them against. It's slightly different in the way one needs to look at your incoming documents. But it wouldn't send it to a particular GP, obviously. So what it does is, it's about classifying document types and then putting them to the appropriate teams and folders and tasks internally, and then they are then picked up from there and actioned.
Yeah, so is that something to think about?
Just like different.
Yeah, at the practice in terms of what folders of some of our sites have changed some folders or made different places to pick letters up from, or different distribution lists. So bit of thinking around how you would replicate that at your practice if that's something that you wanted to do. Will it help with handwritten letters? It's $1 million question. If we could define what handwritten is, we can give an answer. So the short answer is, if it's written really, really well and it's perfect, in a nice, clean, no joined up, then it would be fine. But unfortunately, as we all know, that's generally not the case. So it's going to struggle to read handwriting. And again, this comes back to the purpose of the tooling. So obviously, we're trying to help reduce the amount of work that you have to do. So the logic of one of the logics of using this type of tooling is going to manage everything else, but you'll still be left with the handwritten letters, but you'll have a bit more time on your hands to get through those, because you're not having to validate all of the others. But in principle, I'd love to say 100%. If they're all perfect, but they're not all perfect. So you can make a gut call on how clean that letter is, if it's something that's been handed in to the reception and you're scanning it in and emailing it to the tooling. And if it's lovely and clean, then yeah. If it's not, it's not going to be able to understand it. Are letters coded into the clinical system, i.e. diagnosis, examinations, and results? No. That is left for the team to do. So that's not the purpose of this tooling. The purpose of this tooling is to grab everything, validate the letter type, file it, distribute it to the appropriate person. So the highly capable people that are doing that role at the moment, and again, there's different practices have got different size teams that do that or don't do that work, will have much more time on their hands to focus on doing that specifically. They won't be grabbing all of the letters and validating them and filing them and doing all of the other work as well. Be good to see it in action. Yep, we can do that. Not particularly clear on what it does, what time work it saves from provided. Okay, yeah, we can cover that off. Does it recognize duplicate letters? No. We are looking at a patching it to start to look at duplicate letters, but the approach that we're taking at the moment is that's too potentially dangerous in terms of what happens if a duplicate is 99% the same, or it's 5 pages and there's a word, slight 2 words missing from the second page. It's not safe unless you can absolutely guarantee 100% duplication to remove that. Once you start having third-party tooling taking responsibility for deleting things, we need to be really careful around the logic. So that is something that we're looking at. It's in the pipeline, but as of yet, no. Will your platform integrate with Blinks or Paco? Not at the moment. That's more messaging. Oh, you mean for triage? Yeah, not at the moment. Potentially looking at that as an enhancement, as most of the other third-party softwares. Does this work for mesh documents that come directly into EMIS? No, this is specifically for Docman. Again, that's on our enhancements list for the future. Just wanted to know a bit around pricing. There is the annual amount, the hosted amount to pay. Correct. So essentially you're looking at practice is 749, and then for MyBotGP, and then your list times 30 pence. And then in addition to that, there's a hosting cost of around, depending on list size, 40 to 80 pounds a month. And again, Farrell, if you grab that one, we can go back with specific pricing. So just to come back to the previous question, we'll show a demo in a moment. Let's just run through these questions, finish them off. We'll run through the demo, and then we can come back again. Can I clarify that the annual subscription number of documents and pages can be processed as unlimited cost based on list size? Yes, 100%. Annual subscription, unlimited letters and unlimited letter types. If you go for a second product halfway through, how does the discount work? We can come back to that one, Arif. How many practices do you have currently using this? Also, what is your customer retention like? How many go live, then choose not to continue using the product within the first year or two? We're in 200 plus sites at the moment, maybe 250. Retention rate is healthy. This tool is launched 6 to 8 months ago officially, although it was running in test for quite some time before that. So retention rates for the moment seem okay, but we're not 4, 5, 6 years in where we can give you those stats yet. Can you explain to us a bit more about costing in terms of hosting? Farrell, will you grab that as well? We'll come back to you. But essentially, hosting is based on list size. So if you have up to 10,000 patients, it's 7 pence. So let's say you had 10,000, it would be 700. If you had then from 10,000 to 15,000, the increment is charged at 6 pence. And then from 15,000 beyond that is charged at 5 pence. Can I clarify that MyBotGP supports workflow triage rather than clinical coding? Yes. Is it possible to access the demonstration videos before signing up to get better understanding how it operates? Yes. We'll run through those. Do you have capacity to onboard large numbers of practices if they go forward with the product? What's the usual lead time? Yes. A couple of weeks normally. We have access again to a hosted environment, NHS hosted environment. We just need time to place the order, spin up the machine, plug you in, and then the challenging part of installing lots of clients at the same time is normally around training. But with our webinars, they're running every week. People just jump into the webinars. Yes, it's for all Docman models. Would you consider adding coding in the future, seeing the underlying technology should improve? 100%, Jason, yeah, 100%. That's something we're looking at all the time. We're playing with AI, we're playing with algorithms, we're you know that, and we're obviously with the amount of letters we're processing now, it's giving us good training ground. Do I understand correctly that we will need to have Docman for this to work for us? Yes, you will. It triages letters by types. Is this correct? If so, what types discharge clinical patient letters, etc.? Yes, that's correct. Every letter type, 100%. Do offer a short trial period so we can get a feel for the product. Our entry is 12 months. Are you running any pilots in Southeast London? Are you in discussions with the ICBs offering the service? We're running pilots. They're starting Southwest London in the next couple of months. So there's bundles of pilots kicking off there, and that's for all of our products for pathology filing, Docman repeat prescriptions. Are letters automatically filed to the patient record? Yes. What if you don't have Docman? This must have Docman to work. Can we get a copy of the recorded webinar for our senior staff to watch? Yeah, 100%. Okay, lots of questions. Good stuff. Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you for those. We find that's the best use of time because you know what you're looking for. So, if we give you the opportunity to ask, you can find out. What I'm going to do now is we'll run through a demo. Sandra will talk you through the demo and show you how to code a letter for the first time. And again, as we touched on before, the way our tooling works is you teach it to recognize the letter. Second time, it won't ask you. And then in the second video, what you'll see is just Docman working in the background. So imagine a person that remote worker. That's the best way to think about MyBotGP. It's a remote worker. It will be running across in the background. So just before we start, is there a size limit for a single document? I don't believe there is. No. Okay, good stuff. So I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to stop sharing and then I will share, as Teams with this amount of people on the call can be quite grumpy. It's down to here. Okay, I'm going to try and share now. Okay, Sanj, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, let's give us a moment, please. Okay, so do you want to do this? And I'll
Yeah.
Okay.
Just play the video.
I'm going to go on mute. Okay.
Thanks, James. So just to start, once you're installed, what MyBotGP will do, if you just pause it here, what MyBotGP does, it logs into Docman, it navigates to the not in folder within Docman, and then it grabs every single letter that it sees. And what it does by doing so, it puts it back into the platform in terms of training. So what we need to do is essentially train each letter, classify each letter, and train that letter through the 5 steps. And what it will do, it will pick up any new letters that it sees, and it informs you every day as to new letters that it's seen. And what it does, there's a couple of color codes that it brings them into. So where you will see the platform, you'll see a number of documents which are in enabled state, and then you'll see some documents which are in review state. And all that means is that every day, as I say, when it's running, it's going to grab documents, it's going to look at that document, and it's going to say, okay, I've not seen this document before. I'm going to pop it into the platform, and I'm going to wait for it to be trained. Now, as James has said, the key strength of this tooling is essentially to grab that letter, navigate to not in folder. It will identify the NHS number. It will then look to file that letter as you would do normally. It's the same process it's replicating what a person does by populating all of the information in terms of notes, folders, create reviews, and so forth. And how you do that is essentially going through these 5 steps. So the first thing that we need to do is it will give us a list of the letters that it's found in not in folder. It's given me a copy of them, and you can see on the right hand side I've got a preview of that letter. So the first thing it's going to ask me to do is give it a name. So I give it a name in terms of what this document. So for this one, I'm going to call it oncology or an ENT letter. Let's play that, James.
Yeah, just to interject quickly, this is been anonymized. Essentially, it's one of our clients let us use this for demo purposes, hence why you see the redacted stuff on here, but it will all make sense in a moment.
Brilliant. So if we just play that on, so again, I'm going to type this out and say I'm going to classify this letter as an ENT letter. The next piece is what's the name of the There you go, that's fine. You can just pause it when it gets to the end of the screen. That's perfect, thank you. So the next piece is the document title. So that's automatically populated in our current version, so that not to worry about that, so we can play that on. Now, the next piece is the most important one, and it's really about how one distinguishes this type of letter, i.e. ENT letter. And what MyBotGP is asking for is a unique set of keywords, either a keyword or a series of keywords. And that's how it's going to uniquely classify this letter, by the keywords that I give it. So if I just click play, and we'll classify this letter as ENT clinic letter. Now, what we're saying to MyBotGP is every time you see that keyword, this is what's going to be classified as an ENT letter. Just to pause it there, James. Brilliant. Now, the next step wants me to tell it where to pick up NHS number and event date, and it's pretty much point and click. As you can see, there's a blue box drawn on the right-hand side. So I would then draw a box around the word NHS number and the actual number, and then I will click save, and I'll do the same for event date. And again, with the event date, you've got a couple of options. You can set, if you've got, as we know, you've got multiple dates on letters, so you can decide which one you want by drawing it around the appropriate box. You can also do things like setting up, contingency dates, whereby if that date didn't come, you can set a default date to ensuring that it files correctly and safely. So if we just play that again, I've given it event date and NHS number, so I can now move to step 3. It's just a bit more training. It just wants to know the format. There we go, just stop there. So organisation and department, as we know in Docman, it wants to know the name of the hospital, and then it wants to know the name of the hospital within Docman. So there's two things it wants to know, because as we know, it can often be abbreviated in Docman. So literally all I'm going to tell it is what's the name of the hospital and the exact name of the department that I want to file it against within Docman. We can just click play. And as you can see, we're really starting to enrich the classification of this letter and standardizing on how I file this letter. Okay, and what we can see here, we've replicated every single field that you would see in Docman. So templates, just pause it there, James. So templates, so if you have set up predefined templates, we can use them. Again, you simply just type in the name of the template, and then MyBotGP will pick it up. Description, again, giving it a standardized description for this type of letter, ENT clinic letter. So every time it sees it, it will always apply that description. Folder, notes, and tags. Same process. Very simple. You're just telling MyBotGP how to file as you would normally, giving it the names of the folder. Okay, so if we just play that. Okay, so I've given the description, the folder. I'm going to give the name of a folder, notes and tags, click save. I can now move to step 5. Now here, just to pause it here. So again, if you want to create a task against this letter, so you simply just type in the create review and in how you set it up within Docman. And then again, same process for clinical code. So giving it the name of the clinical code that you would normally file it against within Docman. Okay, if we just play that. Okay, and persons. And that's it. And that completes pretty much the steps 1 to 5. And as you can see, just to be very high level, we've classified the letter, giving it keyword, and we've then given it all of the information that would have applied if filing this letter manually. That's stored in its brain. So every time it sees an ENT clinic letter, it knows exactly how to deal with that letter.
Thanks, Sanj. So coming back to the question, one of the questions earlier around how long does it take? That's the answer there. So once you're familiar with the tooling, it's quite quick. It's a couple of minutes a letter, and normally about 10 letters or so, 10 to 12 letters, for people to build out confidence. Like anything, it takes a little bit of time, not a big amount of time, and then you just literally pre-populate the letter, complete the task, press save. The second time it sees that letter, it won't ask you. So depending on the size of your practice or how many different letter types you get, you can sort of see roughly how much time needs to be allocated to training each letter. Generally, our clients go for the letters they receive the most of to start with, and then what they do is they also start with the ones that they've decided in advance they don't need to see. So DNAs, so on and so 111 referrals, less there's a keyword that says they need to see it, and then they go working through them. But if you allocate, we did a calculation here, an hour, 20 letters, 25 letters once you're up and running, 15 letters, something like that. You can plow through them quite quickly if you allocate an amount of time. Over a week or 2 weeks, they can all be put onto the system. Again, other people who are particularly busy, you might want to take a bit longer, but then the quicker you plow through them, the quicker it's going to look after them for you. And coming back to something I said at the beginning of the call, yes, you have to teach it to recognize each letter, but you only have to do it once, as against performing the same action on that letter again and again, again and again and again, forevermore if you don't. So spending a bit of time to get it up and running will help. What you're seeing here, if you ignore this piece over here, we're now on a hosted solution, is MyBotGP just working in the background. So this is living in for anyone that acquires this tooling now. Now we're in an ICT partner. We're living in an ICT and an ICB. We're logging in into Docman, and it will be going through the box and saying, okay, what letters have I been given permission to look at? Yep, I'm allowed to action that one, as it's doing here, and you can see it like a ghost, for want of a better word, completing it in the background. It's essentially you've got a remote worker, and it's just going to work its way through the letters, completing, filing, and then sending to the appropriate place by itself, day and night, 7 days a week. This is obviously from a live environment, hence the redacted, the letters being redacted here. So that's in reality what it would physically look like if you were looking at it, but you wouldn't be seeing this flashing in the background. It would just be working in the background, and you would have an audit log each day saying what it's done. And obviously you have the ability to log in at any time, add letters, remove letters, change letters and rules, and so on and so forth. So you can get it working as you want it to. Okay, so we've only got 5 or 6 minutes left. What we can do now is go back to the questions. So I'm just going to unshare and then share again, hopefully so Teams doesn't crash. Okay, right, we're here. I'm now going to open up Teams. Okay, so we've got some more questions. Can you see Teams, Sanj? Is that showing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So where did we get to last time?
Do you need a separate login? I think is the next question. Just go up.
We saw that one. We saw that.
No, sorry, go down. Yeah, down. Keep going.
Yeah, that was the lot.
Yeah, there you
go. Do you need a separate? It just needs a Docman login. Is that right, Sanj? Yeah. I'm not going crazy.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Any case studies which show how long practices took to have efficient setup and running with MyBotGP, including staff training, bot teaching, and also study for ROI? A very, very specific question. We can share information with you, but please do take into consideration different practices have different sizes, different list types, different hospitals, different volumes of letters, and allocate different amounts of time to training. So one of the challenges in primary care is to get a one-size-fits-all case study. But what we can share with you is a selection of feedback from clients. And what we can share on this call is that it's about 2 minutes, as we just did there, 1 to 2 minutes to teach it how to code a letter, to recognize a letter once. So if you have 100 letters, 100 times 2 minutes, give or take. If you take into account the first 10 took you a bit longer while you were training. If you have 800, it's 800 times 2 minutes. So if you spend an hour a day or 2 hours a day or an hour every other day or so on and so forth, it will go through that. You can work the calculation out. In addition to that is our weekly webinars. They are very well received. Every week there's a webinar running where if you have any challenges with some letters and you need some support, you can log in, and it's literally one-on-one tutorial. When it comes to coding the letters, would this be done within the MyBotGP software? It's done within Docman. Is there a dashboard to show how many letters and types have been filed? Yes. Very comprehensive dashboard. 100%. You get an email every day confirming what it's done, and then actually within MyBotGP there will be there's a full audit. You can log into the application as well and have a look. Can you please explain the pricing for hosting a normal pathology filing system? We've been given some pricing, but we haven't understood it clearly. Do we need to pay a different price for the hosting solution? Are these systems not run on a single system for pathology filing and Docman filing? Farrell, can you grab that, please, so we can go back to Raja afterwards from Caris Medical. No problem. Could it pick out clinical letters from all specialties with words rejected referral in? You can look for the words rejected referral, yes. Sorry, what was the answer to offering a trial? Our entry point is a 12-month contract. If you code a letter to be treated as ENT, but in the text of the letter, the writer said, I will be making a referral to oncology. How does MyBotGP know if this letter is an ENT letter or an oncology letter? And what does it do if it can't decide? Really good question. That's why we like the questions. This is very specific from the ground. Sanj, over to you.
Thank you. So you've got a choice, essentially, I would say. So it's all based on keywords. So you could say file it into oncology, or again, and not look for the word ENT, or vice versa. So with anything, it's about thinking of the scenario and you deciding where you want it to go. So I think that's the key. You've got a number of keywords and rules that you can set against the keyword. So you can look for multiple keywords. You can look for, you can do things like and conditions and or conditions and not conditions. So what do I mean? So I can look for multiple keywords as mandatory. I can look for multiple keywords which are optional. So this word or this word or this word. I can also do things like a not condition. So for example, in this situation, I could say ENT letter, but never look for, but also a not condition of oncology. So what that would mean is for those ones, it would always go to ENT for the ones which are just ENT. So a long-winded way of saying you can very much do what you want to do in terms of making that choice as to what goes to ENT, excluding oncology. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, and we have a video, and that's synopsis, quick explanation that Sanj gave just now is why we made our YouTube training video channel to answer specific questions like that on how would you use keywords, omissions of keywords, and there's sort of sound bites of a couple of minutes. That's it on there, so you can quickly go onto the channel, watch a video, and go back. And then if you obviously want to investigate further, contact us, or we have our webinars. That's another good question from Moesh. Saving documents. What happens when EMIS crashes? Sanj, over to you.
Well, yeah, I mean it's logging. It's doing its thing in Docman. So you know, as with anything, if EMIS crashes, I mean the update into EMIS is in the back end via the API, which is between Docman and EMIS. So it doesn't really affect what we do because we're working within Docman and filing within Docman. We're grabbing the letter, we're filing it, applying the information as per the fields. That gets saved into Docman, and then at some point during the day, you know, there's obviously there's a link between Docman and EMIS, and that gets updated. And you know, as with anything, if it crashes, it just regenerates and resends it into EMIS. But again, that's outside of what we do here.
Okay, I think we are out of time. If anyone has any more questions, we can hang on for a minute or two and answer them. We can just hold for a second. If not, we can finish here. So just having a look. Okay, so that looks like the last question. So thank you very much for attending today. We will email all of you a copy of this. One more question coming, I'll come back to that in a second. We will email you all a copy of the webinar. And if you have any questions, please come back to us. I believe you should have all received an email from Deandra. And then this webinar will be put onto our website. Docman went down the other day for 3 days. How does that affect us? Is the last question. Well, if Docman's gone down, MyBotGP won't be able to work. So it needs Docman to be working. Good stuff. Thank you to Sanj for helping out today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ibrahim. It's always nice to round of applause. Good stuff. Thank you. Lovely to meet you all. And yeah, look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye. Bye.